I will invite Afonso CAMØES. He's the CEO and the chairperson of LUSA, the Portuguese news agency, but not only working for Portugal, and he will explain soon what they are doing and how they work. And I will invite Barbara MAJTECIC from Croatia to join us. So please have a seat. So this is the final sub box for this. Okay. yeah, you can upload them. I don't know, Afonso, are you going to speak in Portuguese or in English or in French or Chinese? Okay, no, it's okay. So don't forget your earphone. I will start with Afonso. Afonso, as I said, is the chairperson, the CEO of LUSA, the Portuguese news agency. And you've got his biography, so I won't do it again. But we met again in November, end of November, beginning of December, in LUSA. And I will tell the story because it was so interesting. When I arrived in LUSA, I was with Thiago and Sofia, who are our contacts within LUSA. And when I arrived at the meeting, Afonso had something with him, very interesting, short A4 sheet of paper. And because I'm from the Council of Europe, he thought that I was coming to check diversity issues within LUSA. And he put all the figures and data and so on and so on. I just want to remind this not to put him in a strange position, it was interesting because I think he's one of the very first CEO or chairperson I met in Europe who did this when I came to him to negotiate and to discuss about a partnership regarding this encounter. But if I wanted to remind this is just to ask the very first question on what is LUSA and how you as a manager you are dealing with diversity issue within your staff, news you are producing and so on. But just remind first what is LUSA and the influence of LUSA in the world.
Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry about the weather.
You can't do
sure
anything about this.
You would deserve something better. Bom dia, eu prefiro sinto mais à vontade a falar em português, naturalmente. A LUSA é a agência de notícias, podemos dizer, de bandeira, a agência de notícias nacional. Nós somos um pequeno país, mas falamos uma grande língua. O português é hoje falado por cerca de 250 milhões de pessoas. O português não é património de Portugal, é uma língua património de 8 países soberanos em todos os continentes. Portugal, Brasil, Angola, Moçambique, Cabo Verde, Guiné-Bissau, Macau, um pequeno território no sul da China, onde o português é língua oficial pelo menos mais de 40 anos, Timor-Leste. São 8 países soberanos que falam português e este é um universo de 250 milhões de falantes em português. A LUSA é uma agência dirigida a este mundo de língua portuguesa. Somos uma pequena agência, comparada com o ranking das agências noticiosas no mundo, mas somos uma agência com mundo. E fazemos-lo, apesar de tudo, com uma pequena equipa. Nós somos só 262 em Portugal, em 52 pontos de território nacional e em 29 países do mundo, com correspondentes. Os nossos patrões são, em primeiro lugar, o Estado, que tem 51%, e depois um conjunto largo de acionistas privados. Alguns que são, a maior parte deles, nossos clientes também. Mídia, em geral. Isto é a LUSA. Somos jornalistas, somos uma agência noticiosa, membros da Aliança das Agências Europeias, onde, aliás, ganhámos um prémio de inovação e excelência em 2010, porque somos uma agência que deixou o paradigma tradicional, que era escrever só texto, fazer texto e fotografia, vender só texto e fotografia. Passámos a fazer notícias também em áudio, vídeo, e trabalhamos para todas as plataformas, inclusive os smartphones e os tablets. Eu podia estar horas a falar sobre a agência e sobre o que fazemos, mas é bom que me vais perguntando coisas.
I know this. I know this. I won't insist on your activities as such, but I would like you, as a chairperson, as a CEO of LUSA, how do you think you are managing, or not, this issue of diversity within your staff and within the way the news you produce and that are disseminated for all the media here in Portugal and even outside? How do you think it works? And yeah, how do you think it works? I will have another question after.
Sim. Na agência, a diversidade a agência é ela mesma diversidade. Diversidade territorial, porque nós estamos estamos em todas as partes do país e em muitos lugares do mundo. E, portanto, o nosso universo de busca de notícias e de produção, e até daqueles que produzem as notícias, bom, é uma diversidade de mundo, de continentes, de culturas, e lidamos bem com a diversidade. A diversidade dentro da própria agência, vamos procurando construí-la. As mulheres hoje já começam a ser a maioria na empresa.
How many women in situation of power?
Esse é um caminho que temos que fazer. Esse é um caminho. Mas eu creio que há cada vez menos preconceitos dessa natureza no jornalismo. Deixem-me dizer-vos, eu profissionalizei-me como jornalista em 1979. Na redação onde eu entrei, no Porto, era um grande jornal, em toda a redação só havia uma senhora, a Dona Maria Bilitilda. E não era jornalista sequer, era secretária de redação. E era a senhora, era a única pessoa em toda aquela casa que sabia ler fitas picotadas do Telex e corrigi-las. Mas rapidamente as redações se povoaram de mulheres e hoje são a maioria. E estão entre os melhores. A verdade é que, bom, na LUSA temos muitas editoras. Eu creio que não são a maioria ainda, pois não, a Sofia, lembra-me lá. Há paridade ao nível da estrutura de chefia intermédia. No topo não temos mulheres ainda. Temos uma chefe de redação, não temos nenhuma diretora. Na administração temos uma mulher, em 5.
Okay. Within your daily work, Afonso, I come back to you personally, but in your daily work as a manager, how do you try to deal with this issue of diversity? How do you think personally, as a chairperson, how do you try to influence the way your people, I'm thinking about Sofia and Tiago, how do you try to influence the way they work and how they produce the news and so on and so on?
Eu sou muito sensível às questões desta natureza. E reajo a todas as propostas que me possam fazer. Reajo bem a todas as propostas, muito bem a todas as propostas. E não tenho preconceitos de nenhuma natureza. Acho que é importante que em todas as organizações, e na LUSA nós temos essas condições, nós temos um conselho de redação, temos uma comissão de trabalhadores. Bom, nós temos um código de ética. Antes de mais, nós temos um código de ética, temos código deontológico, somos uma casa muito escrutinada, com regras. E depois temos os órgãos constituídos. O Conselho de Redação funciona muito regularmente. Estamos em eleições para o Conselho de Redação. Temos uma Comissão de Trabalhadores muito ativa. Hoje há jornais que publicam um comunicado da Comissão de Trabalhadores. Há hoje uma Assembleia Geral de Acionistas e nós estamos com fortes cortes nos orçamentos. Mas estes órgãos são muito ativos e propõem. E eu acho que é possível e desejável ir, por exemplo, puxando mulheres para o topo da empresa. E eu acho que essa afirmação é natural numa agência noticiosa. É verdade que em todo o espaço da União Europeia só há uma mulher nesta altura como presidente de uma agência de notícias. E, curiosamente, é do último país que aderiu à União Europeia, a Croácia. A presidente da agência croata é Branca Valentim. Ok.
Okay. Another question. When I visited LUSA in November with Thiago, he showed me a room, an area, not especially a room, but an area you call the agenda room. You know, this room from where you are disseminating your main news and so on and so on. And I was thinking at this time, and I told to Thiago, how could we work with this room and this specific area within your news agency to spread this idea of diversity? Because if you start to work with the agenda room, you are going to touch all the media and so on and so on. How do you think it could be possible?
Welcome.
Not for us, not for Mediane, but...
Uma agência de notícias vive justamente disso, dessa interação entre a sociedade civil e o público. A agenda é crucial numa redação. E se este tipo de assuntos cair na agenda de uma agência noticiosa, podem estar seguros que todos os mídias recebem a nossa agenda. Todos. E por intermédio dos mídias temos um grande acesso deste tipo de questões junto do grande público.
Just to conclude, because time is running and soon Diane is going to kill me. As I said yesterday and the day before. Anyway, I just have a last question, Afonso. As the chairperson of LUSA, what would you like to do regarding the inclusion of diversity, or what maybe did you regret to not have done until now, and what would you like to do in the futures regarding the inclusion of diversity in the news you are producing and disseminating?
Eu não pensei nisso, mas estou completamente aberto a propostas que me possam pôr diante dos olhos. Não pensei nisso de todo, sinceramente.
Okay, I'm sure you will think about it just after leaving. Thank you, Afonso. We're gonna switch to from Portugal to Croatia with Barbara. I must say that when we talk with Diane about the sub-boxers, we choose Barbara first because she is who she is, but also because the next encounter will be in Croatia at the end of April. There will be another one before in Germany, but we will be in Croatia soon, and we thought, because it's the last EU member state to enter in EU, we thought it was interesting to have a perspective from Croatia. And we thought also it was interesting to have, at the same time, Afonso CAMØES, who is a chairperson, a CEO, I would say a big boss, with a freelancer, a journalist on the ground, who on a daily basis she tries to do what she does, and she tries to include diversity. But few words about you, Barbara. Can you tell us who you are? You can read the biography, but most importantly, what are the main challenges within Croatia with regard to diversity, according to you and your own experience?
Good morning, everybody. Does it work? It works.
Yeah. Just closer.
So my name is Barbara MAJTECIC, which is misspelled there, but it's never mind, because usually we as a journalist, we misspell those strange family names. So I said, I'll use my notes, because writing is, for me, is a way of thinking. So even for few biography notes on myself, I have to write them down. So I started as a cultural journalist covering literature and linguistics, and it was a long time ago. I don't want to count it. And after a while, which means a few years, because I'm slow, I felt useless in a way. I mean, covering those topics. I felt like I could use better myself and media space I had. Because topics like the future of the essays in Europe didn't seem relevant anymore to me. They are relevant, and I'm a passionate reader, and I have a background in literature. I've studied literature, but I didn't see myself as the one who have a motivation to write about such topics anymore. I thought there were some more important questions to raise. And that's how I started to write about social issues, discrimination, post-war societies, etc., about all the diversity of the so-called beautiful losers. But as you've been told, I'm not here because of my work, but because my profile fits into the quota.
Not especially our quota.
Sorry?
Not especially about our own quota, because if you observed,
No, but for this meeting, I'm joking a little bit. So I'm a dust eater, freelancer, a lot of field work. I'm a female, and I'm coming from a country where the next Mediane encounter will be. But that's a perfectly fine, fair to treat me like that, because that is also what we as a journalist usually do to the others. We speak to the Muslims because they are Muslims, we speak to the disabled because they are disabled, and so on. So I'm feeling like a woman, dust eater, and what else? Croat right now. Sorry? Dust eater. Oh, there's no such an expression in English. I thought that there is. Like the one who is eating dust because it's loaded on the spot. A lot of field work. There's no such expression in English? Dust eater? No. Sorry, I was... There is now. But I'm not sure, is it in Croatian even such expression? Because I really thought that it's English phrase. Okay, no, okay. But you get the point. I'm not CEO, if you didn't figure it out.
Don't worry, you will be soon. And so to come back to my question, according to you, what are the main challenges with regard to diversity within Croatia?
You want to switch from me to Croatia immediately?
Yeah.
I don't think that, first of all, there is in Croatia 90% of people living in Croatia are Croats, and 86 Catholics, according to the last census. 86. It's very scary. I mean, it's Europe as it used to be, which is quite similar to our advertising slogan for tourism, Mediterranean as it used to be. So white, Catholics, I mean religious and so on. So there's not much of diversity in Croatia, and I would say that our major problem is not how we present diversity in the media, but that we don't do it, not at all, but almost at all. And when we do it, we tend to focus on the accidents, of course. Even when even when the media had a, like a good approach or good intentions, but writing about different groups only because of the accidents, after that you relate those groups only with the so-called problems. So what I see as a problem, it's not that, first of all, there's no diversity in the media. And the second thing, but it's not only Croatian thing, it's that we don't focus on the good examples, so where diversity actually works. For example, I see my work particularly, and I mean I can talk only for myself, as a peace building, as a peacekeeper, and I can give you some examples. So I work, from time to time, I work with as a stringer for a foreign journalist, which says something about the economical position of the journalist in Croatia, right? Because I suppose that there is no senior, or call me however you want, correspondent in UK or France working as a stringer for US journalists. And a lot of them came last summer when Croatia were joining EU, and all of them, no exceptions, after visiting Zagreb, the capital, wanted to go to Vukovar. I'm not sure how well are you informed about Vukovar, but to put it very shortly, is a Croatian city on the border with Serbia, which was the first city after the Second World War who was destroyed during the war in ex-Yugoslavia, in Croatia, in 1991, destroyed by Yugoslav People's Army back then. It was official army there, and Serbian paramilitary forces, and it was occupied for 1991 to 1997, so 6 years. Mostly Serbs lived there and so on. So they all wanted to go, all of them, like journalists from Scandinavia. I had a Spanish journalist, Swedes, Danes, and I'm not sure, someone else must be. They all wanted to go there, and they had, they told me like, I want someone whose father was killed by Serbs, some nationalists from Croatian and from Serbian side, and so on. So people live there together in Vukovar. It's 33% of Serbs, and 47, I think, or something like that, Croats there. And I told them, like, okay, I know someone whose father, as a Serb and defender of the Vukovar on so-called Croatian side, I mean of the side of the citizens of that city, was killed by Serbs as well. And like that, they told me, no, keep it simple, that's too complicated. So, I mean, complexity is what is going on now in Ukraine. It's very similar to Croatia, as what was happening in ex-Yugoslavia, as I see it. So I hope that media won't try to keep it simple there, because sometimes I wonder what if we, what before of the war in Croatia and ex-Yugoslavia, what if the media tried harder to present complexity of the society, to present people, what united people, not what divided people back then. Maybe the things would have been different. I'm not saying that the rat is a Croatian word for war. It came out of me. I'm not saying that war wouldn't have happened because the mass power, the much powerful forces were behind the war. But I'm sure that less harm would have happened, less people would be injured, less people killed, and so on. So that's how I see diversity, inclusiveness, media diversity, inclusiveness as a tool for peace building and peacekeeping. For example, when the riots and car burnings spread over France in 2005, I didn't see much about Marseille, and Marseille, much news about Marseille, where the riots weren't happening. And as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Marseille has the biggest Muslim community in Europe, according to data.
One of the biggest.
And that was unused. I mean, how that community there functioned and what was happening there was no news. And I find it as a, like peace building, great news. Why those people, of course, why those people burn cars are quite important, but why not in Marseille as well?
It was an interesting issue. We can debate about this for hours, but you're right, it was interesting to observe that at this time in 2005, nothing happened within Marseille compared to the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And I think for even our, today is still a question for our decision makers, why this city developed the similar riot that developed in other cities in France. Anyway, I want to come back on your work. And today, as a journalist, as a freelancer, how do you think you will be able to include diversity, to be in this track of diversity, inclusiveness in your work as a journalist? What would you like to do, or what are you doing?
I'll give you a very personal answer and maybe disappointing one. I'm becoming to see myself as a part of the problem, as if I reproduce some forms of inequality and majority power. So being a woman is my only so-called weakness. Apart from that, I'm Croat and so on. I'm heterosexual. Name it whatever, which is right. I'm that. Unfortunately, in a way. And I report about people, about underreported subjects. I give them voice, but at the end, I shape it, I frame it, I sign it, and I get paid for it. Of course, it's a mutual benefit. Something, at least I hope that I do, but they help me for sure. Without those people, I wouldn't be what I am. Of course, I can go back to writings about future of the essays in the Europe, so I wouldn't be starving. But still, I love my work. I love working with the people. So I'm started to feel quite recently as I use those people in a way. So my biggest concern is not how to include diversity, in what way, and so on, but it's more ethical questions. And I think that we didn't maybe talk about those things enough, about ethical problems that we face last 2 days, but never mind, it's my ongoing, I'm always occupied with the ethical questions and so on. So I try to find alternative approaches, meaning I'm trying to include people of different backgrounds in my work, or even let them work instead of me. So in 2009, I left position in the daily national newspaper to become a freelancer, which I felt in my income quite a lot. And now I'm on the point when I'm willing to give my job to the other people because I don't feel good enough that I write about, that I only give them a voice. I would like to encourage them to have a voice for themselves. For example, yesterday, am I too long? I'm too long, right?
It's okay, it's okay. Just conclude on this, don't worry.
Just one example. Yesterday, I was among the group in a study visit in Portuguese national radio television, and particularly at the radio department, and they were talking about the one example of diversity they had, one project. And it was about the 7 kids who were chosen by some charity organization as the kids who were poor. And they came, they spent one day at the radio, I'm not pretending, but playing as a journalist, cameraman, and so on. So they were involved in the work of the radio. And I was like listening to that, and I understand it. It's nice. It's better for the kids that they spend one day there than on the street or whatever. And maybe really one out of them, 7, will, because of that day, one become a journalist or whatever, or we pursue education, or so maybe something good will fit. But really, you know, what did I do for those kids? I mean, it's a kind of the playground. But mostly for the audience, because for the audience it was, you know, cute, nice. They had the kids there; they are nice. It's also, how do you call it? Kind of, it's not greenwash, but is there something like? Yes, yeah. So it's not. I mean, I really don't want to be judgmental. It's very Croatian thing, but I'm not. I'm just questioning, because I'm doing similar things, maybe not that cheesy as with the kids at the radio, but I do that, and that I question, you know, at the end of the day, where are those people? I get paid, you know, and where are they? I mean.
I think, and I think we will conclude on this, but you said something very important just at the end, and you said a lot of important things. Don't worry about this, Barbara.
All of it.
But I liked when you said it is about to question ourselves, question the others, question myself. And I think all this history about diversity is really, firstly, to question ourselves on the way we look at the other, on the way we work, we live, we exchange, we have dialogue with others. And another point you mentioned, and it's interesting because it goes back to the beginning of the encounter. It's the audience and the people you are working with, and you said how you use them and so on and so on. But I think these 2 elements, the audience, who is also not only the audience, it's also the people from whom you take your news, your issues, your sources, and so on. And I think it's interesting to have this circle you made, maybe in a voluntary way. But Mukti and Barbara started to talk about the audience first and how it is important to take into account this diversity of the audiences. And I think the main challenges are around this issue of audiences. I will stop here. I will give the floor back to Diane. But before, thanks a lot, Afonso, for being with us. Thanks a lot, Barbara.